Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. I'm New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, and I'm incredibly pleased to be joined by so many community leaders here today, including housing advocates, elected officials, members of the clergy. I thank Cornerstone Baptist Church and Senior Pastor Reverend Lawrence E. Aker, and we're joined by Mrs. Aker today, as well as others from the church, including Reverend Bruce Williams from the Bridge Street AME Church, and others from Cornerstone, including Reverend Nelson and Reverend Janelle Hardaway. We are also joined by a great group of public officials, many of whom I've worked with for years, including my longtime colleague and friend, Senator Velma Montgomery, Assemblywoman Annette Robinson, Councilman Robert Carnegie, Community Board 3 Chair and Assemblywoman-elect Tremaine Wright, as well as representatives of the Center for New York City Neighborhoods and many of the legal services and housing counseling organizations that make up the Homeowner Protection Program, or HOPP, which is a network of legal services and housing counseling programs my office started funding in 2012 with funds we got from our settlements with the banks that sold the bad securities that caused the crash of the housing market. We also have community groups, including the Brownstoners of Bed-Stuy. I believe Reverend Getty from the Friendship Baptist Church is also here with us. And I'd like to thank everyone for their participation today, because this is, above all, a team effort. We cannot do this by ourselves. We cannot prosecute our way out or investigate our way out of a housing crisis, of a foreclosure crisis as the Attorney General's office. We need the cooperation of the community. We need the cooperation of our allies. And what you see here is a community united behind the goal of keeping families in their homes and protecting them from scammers who would prey on families at risk of foreclosure. A lot of people think there's a boom on in New York City. The housing problems, are not really what they were a few years ago. They are dead wrong. We are in the midst of a foreclosure crisis here, and for many New Yorkers, things are getting worse. New York State has the highest rate of homes in foreclosure in the nation as of this summer. And whenever people are in hard times, and desperate people are the primary targets of scammers, of fraudsters, of crooks, foreclosure rescue scammers are swooping in, promising relief from foreclosure and a fresh start from families who are just worried sick about keeping their homes. But what the home rescue scammers actually deliver is heartbreak. Some even steal the homes right out from under the rightful homeowners. And we have a couple here with us today who are courageous and generous enough to share their story with us, Joseph Clark and Jacqueline Knights, who experienced this nightmare firsthand, and we will hear from them later. But the key message today is that we're not going to stand by and let this happen. And as long as I'm the Attorney General, I have a commitment to providing whatever resources we can and working with every community leader we can to make sure that no New Yorker loses their home because they have bad information, they can't get to a lawyer or housing counselor. You are not out there alone. And we're announcing today two things that are going to help address this problem. First, we're announcing another $20 million in awards to our very successful Homeowner Protection Program, or HOPP. We are funding almost 90 legal services and housing counseling agencies around the state, and since we started this in 2012, we have seen tremendous success. We also are announcing that we are awarding another $350,000 that is targeted at a new program that is targeted at protecting New Yorkers from foreclosure rescue scams by doing outreach to educate people and keep them away from scammers. Catching bad guys is good. Educating people so that there are no bad guys to catch is always better. When I was first elected Attorney General and took office in January 2011, we were still dealing with the horrible effects of the crash of the housing market. That's why I made it a priority from day one to do everything I could do to help New York families at risk. After a fairly contentious year of debate among other AGs and with the federal government, President Obama appointed me as national co-chair of an unprecedented state-federal working group to recover funds from the banks that helped contribute to the crash. And I've obtained settlements with banks so far in excess of $95 billion, and almost $6 billion of that has come here to the state of New York, and we are still working. We've used that money to fund a comprehensive and multifaceted approach to the crisis. The first step was to deal with the 345,000 New York families at that time who were facing foreclosure. And I made the commitment that I just mentioned, that no one in New York should lose their home because they're eligible for a mortgage modification but don't know it, or they just can't get to a lawyer or housing counselor. So we've dedicated $80 million so far to the Homeowner Protection Program. The $20 million we're announcing today brings the total to $100 million. We fund this network statewide of nearly 90 agencies that are helping people. More than 70,000 families across New York have already received help from one or another of our HOPP providers, almost 8,000 of those families right here in Brooklyn. And some of our HOPP partners are here today. I thank them. I'm grateful for their dedication and their work. We also have set up what's called a mortgage assistance program, realizing that there's some folks who were very close to qualifying for a modification of their mortgage that would help them stay in their homes. Now our HOPP providers can make small loans to homeowners. So even if you think you're not qualified, contact a HOPP provider. You can find them on our website. You can call our hotline. You may be eligible for relief that you don't know about. So we have really put everything we can into this. We're working with the best experts in the field. And of the $20 million that we're announcing today, almost $8 million of it is going to 17 organizations here in New York City, legal services and housing counseling agencies to help New Yorkers stay in their home. The hardest hit counties by the housing crisis were Suffolk, Nassau, Queens, and Brooklyn. So we are targeting the money where it is needed the most. Unfortunately, however, even though we've been trying to publicize this, too many families who fall on hard times still do not know that these services are available. Instead, they hear ads or see ads or are approached by people that promise mortgage modifications or legal assistance in exchange for upfront fees. Others offer what they call forensic audits that they claim will uncover flaws in mortgage documents that could prevent a bank from foreclosing. These are largely mortgage rescue scams. They are on the rise, and in the worst case scenarios, they don't just steal money, they actually steal homes. Scammers lure families who are in danger of foreclosure in and convince them that help is on the way, but only if they sign the deed to their home over. The scammer might tell a family they can continue to rent their home from the scammer until the family gets on its feet and can buy it back, or they convince families that if they sign over their home, they can walk away from a delinquent mortgage. None of this is true. Families are taken in by these false promises far too often, and far too often find themselves on the street. So 2 years ago, in response to this aspect of the crisis, my office launched a tool to help families find out if a mortgage refinancing scheme, if a company that claims to be in that business is legitimate or not. Our web-based app, agscamhelp.com, listed right here, is an app that you can get on your smartphone, and it tells you if a company is legitimate, if it's a HOPP provider or approved by HUD. If they're not, stay away from them. And it also directs you to the legitimate providers that we have in our network. It has been an enormous success. More than 140,000 New Yorkers have gone to this app and gotten the accurate information. Those are people who have been saved from mortgage scammers because they have the good information about where to go to get real advice and real help. We have also followed up and brought cases against several organizations running mortgage foreclosure scams. We recently shut down a group that was targeting Latino homeowners in Queens and secured $1.6 million in restitution for their victims. In July, we took it a step further and got our criminal division involved and have set up a special real estate enforcement unit in my office dedicated to bringing criminal cases against scammers who would rip off vulnerable homeowners. We have several active investigations across the city, including here in Brooklyn. But again, catching bad guys is never as good as preventing crime in the first place, so we have to do more. The $350,000 we're announcing today is being allocated to make sure that support networks that families are likely to reach out to when they're in crisis. Local officials, clergy, other community leaders are prepared to warn families away from mortgage scammers and direct them to our HOPP partners. And frankly, we need help to reach out to the families and find the families that are most vulnerable, to extend a helping hand to them before the scammers find them. That's the goal of the $350,000 Mortgage Rescue Scam Prevention Program that we're announcing today. We've awarded up to $50,000 each to 9 different HOPP grantees in the targeted areas of New York City, the Hudson Valley, and Long Island, where we have found that these scams are the most prevalent. And we're joined by representatives from several of the New York City organizations today, Bronx Neighborhood Housing Services, Neighborhood Housing Services of Queens, and Neighborhood Housing Services of Brooklyn. These grants are going to be used for community outreach, education campaigns targeted at neighborhoods and homeowners most at risk from scams, to make sure that we are focusing our efforts where they are needed most. We are using a predictive model. We contracted with a very sophisticated tech company to incorporate data analytics tools to identify communities and residents who are most at risk of being victimized by foreclosure rescue scams. The Foreclosure Rescue Scam Prevention Program will support outreach efforts, including door-to-door efforts, to help prevent foreclosure rescue scams that target vulnerable communities. And my office remains committed to investigating and prosecuting anyone who would prey on vulnerable New Yorkers. But again, ladies and gentlemen, the best solution by far is to prevent families from falling into the trap of mortgage rescue scams in the first place. So I'm confident the programs we're announcing today are going to help achieve that goal, and I thank my colleagues for being here with me. This truly is a united community out to protect our people, and whatever happens at any other level of government, the founders of the Republic, in their wisdom, left a lot of power in the hands of state and local governments, and we will do whatever we have to do to protect vulnerable New York homeowners and anyone else who's at risk of having their rights or liberties infringed on. With that, I want to introduce 2 people who can speak firsthand about what it means to fall victim to one of these scams, Joseph Clark and Jacqueline Knights. If you could join me here.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. And Councilmember Carnegie, for your work helping homeowners and for inviting us to speak here today. My name is Joseph Clark, and I'm a homeowner in Canarsie. My wife, Jackie, and I are immigrants from Guyana. A couple of years ago, we were having trouble paying our mortgage and got tricked by some scammers who pretended they would help us save our homes. The name of that group was Homeowners Assistance Services of New York. And they promised that if I worked with them, they would help us find a way to keep my home. I trusted them because they said they would help us, and also because the person who reached out to us was Guyanese like ourselves, which made me more comfortable. When I went to their office, a man introduced himself as my lawyer and gave me a document to sign. He never explained what I was signing. I did not realize then, by signing those papers, I sold my family home to an investor who would then try to evict us from our own house. Thank you.
My name is Jacqueline Knights. I'm Joseph Clark's wife. On November the 7th, I would never forget that sad day when these same con artists came to my home and said they are the new owners of the home, and we have to either pay a rent of $5,600 a month or get out of the home. I listened to what they had to say, and I know that they would have had to take a crane to bulldoze me out of that house because I wasn't going anywhere. They also told me that if I could give them my Social Security and my daughter's Social Security, we could buy back the house within 3 months, and we would pay a mortgage of $500. That didn't sound right. I said, could you show me the document stating that? They couldn't show me anything. I told them to get out my house and leave. They left, but they began harassing me morning, noon, and night. They even went to my neighbors and tell my neighbors that we are living in a house that does not belong to them, but not belongs to us, but belongs to them. I went and I contacted a friend who in return put me on to the Brooklyn Legal Services. I met with Ms. Jenny Eisenberg, who helped us along the way. And I am thankful and grateful for all the help she's given us and is continue to give us. They filed an eviction notice against us. They put it on my door. Ms. Eisenberg went forward and she stopped that eviction procedure. They went and they changed the locks of my door. I was a prisoner in my own house, and I'm asking anybody who have the same situation with me, do not give up, seek counsel. There are people out there who is willing to help you, and you would have your home today. All I need back is the deed for my home. That is all I need. That this thing just keep resting on me. It makes me very, very sad. And I'm hoping one day I'll be able to get back my home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we're actually going to hear from their attorney, who's a staff attorney at South Brooklyn Legal Services, one of our outstanding HOPP partners, Jenny Eisenberg.
Good morning, everyone. I know that I speak for many homeowner advocates around New York when I say thank you to Attorney General Schneiderman for your groundbreaking work on these issues. Thank you also to Councilmember Cornegie, who has been front and center in the fight to preserve affordable homeownership right here in Bedford-Stuyvesant and across New York City. Without your support and the support of many other elected officials in this room and outside, our job as advocates would be much harder, if not impossible. What happened to my clients is sadly not that unusual. The real estate market in New York City and around New York State has created a bottomless pit of predatory investors who scoop up cheap houses and flip them at tremendous profits. At Legal Services, we are seeing these scams play out across the city, primarily in communities of color. These are communities who were first victimized by redlining, then by abusive lending practices, and now they're being victimized again by unscrupulous real estate investors who take advantage of people in their most darkest hours. Homeowners are struggling, and when you're struggling, you're desperate for help. When Mr. Clark signed over the deed to his house, he had no idea that the entity pretending to help him, conveniently named Homeowner Assistance Services, had actually just deeded his property to their own corporate alter ego. Now they claim to own the Clark's home and have tried to evict them from their own residence. This right here is why free legal services are so crucial. This wasn't our first run-in with this scam, and so we were ready to counsel the Clarks not to be afraid of an eviction notice and to walk into court and fight that case when it got filed. When we researched the public records, we saw that these scammers have systematically gone after homeowners in communities of color around the city. So, in addition to lawsuits in state Supreme Court, we have filed many fair housing complaints with the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, and we have worked with federal law enforcement to hold these people accountable. These particular scam artists are actually facing criminal charges for their scheme. But ultimately, a criminal prosecution does not guarantee justice for individual homeowners. And that is why the resources we get from the HOPP grant are so critical to the work of legal services providers and housing counselors. We can dig in on these cases, we can do the work, and we can monitor what is happening on the ground in the communities that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is important to understand two things I just want to emphasize. Frequently, people will approach homeowners who come from their own communities. We have situations where they have the same backgrounds. We have situations where people will approach homeowners in church and try to get their attention and get credibility from being there. And the arrogance of these groups is astonishing. What kind of car did they drive up in?
Fancy cars.
Yeah.
They would park at my house every day.
Yeah, so they were driving up in a Rolls Royce to try and take these people out of their home, ladies and gentlemen. So please, visit AG Scam Help, call our hotline, and now I want to introduce one of my heroes and a great colleague in government to speak, State Senator Velmanette Montgomery.
Thank you. Just on behalf of the people who have benefited so tremendously from the statewide elected official who has not only the vision and the sensitivity and the commitment to our people, but who also is a fierce fighter on behalf of people. The people who are represented here, I want to say on their behalf, we thank you. And it goes to show you that when an elected official uses his or her power to benefit the people that you serve, it makes a huge difference, and we feel it. So you're a different statewide elected official, and I can say that. I'm here in my own house, in my own community, and I am saying this is a different statewide elected official. So we thank you very much. And to those organizations who are on the front lines every day, those are the people who make a difference, as the attorney has said, and as the family here knows now, and as we all try as best as we can to bring resources to organizations like are here today. But the fact that our Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, has been able to not only raise the money and get money back from those who we deserve to have it received from, but has also had the vision to make sure that the organizations here with us today have benefited and are able to serve the people that we care about. So, as I said, as I began, I thank you for your vision, for your fight, and for remembering that we care and what our needs are, and that you want to see us successful and survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Assemblywoman Robinson? Assemblywoman, do you want to speak? Please. Another great leader here, Assemblywoman Annette Robinson.
Good morning, all, and to the Attorney General, we certainly want to thank you for the continued efforts that you've initiated on behalf of the people of the state of New York, and specifically for the Central Brooklyn community, to be able to save our homes. To my colleagues in government and the partners here that have persevered in this vineyard to help people to save their homes. It's been a while now that we began our first initiative to put forward resources in the community to be able to have the organizations to work on behalf of saving homes within the community. And now we even have a greater challenge, and that is to reach out to those who sometimes don't want to be reached out to because of the embarrassment. I know that I went to a nursing home. This is a little short story. Went to a nursing home a couple of weeks ago, and the gentleman that was sitting there who was getting his therapy, he says to me, "I want to talk to you." He lives in Canarsie. He said, "I want to talk to you because I think they're taking my home." That's what he said to me at that particular time. And I hear that more often than not. We hear that a lot. I know that when you talk about the Brownstoners are here, who began to knock, when you say knock on doors, they've been knocking on doors for a number of years now to be able to keep people from losing their homes because of taxes and water. So there's so many different kinds of schemes that we've been victimized by, and so we're hopeful that we're going to, we're all going to tie our ropes together to make sure that we are able to reach out to people in the most responsible way that we can to be able to continue to save homes within our community. That's the greatest piece of wealth that any of us will ever have, and that would be our own home. So let's make sure we hold on to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, someone who stands tall in every sense and is a terrific partner in government and true activist on behalf of his constituents, Councilman Robert Carnegie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I was going to begin my remarks by saying what a pleasure it is to have the Attorney General here and to stand shoulder to shoulder with him, but obviously that's... But in all honesty, this is a testament to what can happen when the city and the state get together around an issue that's germane to communities, especially communities of color. So I want to thank you for coming here. This is actually my house of worship. So in honor of my pastor, the Reverend Lawrence Aker, who has created an environment where we can have, church without walls, and we can extend service into not just worship, but into making sure that the constituents and the congregants of not only this church, but churches around Brooklyn get the information that they need to be safe in every way. So someone mentioned to me earlier that they said, it's great to have you working hard in leadership. And I thought to myself, I wish I didn't have to do this. Like, I wish that this wasn't an issue that was so prevalent in this community that we have to call the Attorney General to help us in this situation. And I'm also saddened by the fact that while we have the pleasure of a family who's willing to step forward and give their story, there's no way of knowing how many people have actually lost their homes to date based on various scams. So the Assemblywoman mentioned that, yes, deed theft and fraud is something that we're looking at and has been prevalent in the community, but prior to that, it was the onset of these tax and water liens, which I want to thank Bridge Street Development Corporation and Impact and other people who partner in a lien help night every year, where we bring in the services in the Department of Finance and allow people to begin a process of getting back where they need to be in terms of the water and taxes. I just want to say that going forward, I look forward to working with the AG, and I didn't realize how staggering the amount of resources you've been able to bring back to organizations that do this work, right? Because on a city level, it's very difficult to put together the resources to fund solely these organizations. So without our state partners, there's no way that this would be possible. So Velmanette Montgomery and Annette Robinson, who are mentors to me, have done a tremendous job up to date in making sure those resources were available. I just look forward to making sure this gets where it needs to get, and everybody has the necessary information to make an informed decision on their properties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And finally, someone who is already a community leader, a community board leader, and a neighborhood activist, and now is our Assemblywoman-elect, Tremaine Wright.
Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to be here today to stand with our Attorney General and to say thank you to him, as well as our community partners who are working on behalf of our community members to help them secure and to maintain their homes. As our Assemblywoman just stated, purchasing our homes is probably the greatest investment most of us will make, and it is the source for our greatest asset for continuing family wealth in this community, and probably in most communities throughout this nation. But when it's under attack, we're under attack, and the stability of our community is under attack. So we definitely rely on our partners to help us maintain community and to help us to maintain a stable community that can support one another and to help maintain a lifestyle that we all want and cherish here in our neighborhood. My first job as a lawyer was in legal services in the housing department, so this is near and dear to my heart. I understand the fear that people experience when someone comes and attacks the place that they call home. So when we have the partner in state government, city government, our civic organizations, and our community, we know that we're able to work together to make sure people stay in their homes and that our community remains stable. So thank you very much. And we also, I know we just had you at our community board meeting, and I also like to introduce our new community board chair, Mr. Richard Flatteau, who also shared, shared his experience with someone attacking him and his ownership of a building in our community and the resources necessary to secure and to fight and battle that attack. So we know that we need to bring people together, we need to share our stories, and we need to pull away the curtain so that people don't feel ashamed and afraid. So thank you for this work, and thank you for allowing us to stand with you.
Thank you. Thank you all. We are all in this together, and the only thing I'd like to emphasize at the end is, please, don't be ashamed, don't be embarrassed. Everyone is being under relentless assault by scammers coming from all directions these days. We have seen scammers produce what appears to be the exact letterhead of my office and send letters to people. So don't be skeptical of cold calls and guarantees. Ask for a number to call back, check people out, find out if they're legitimate. Go to AG Scam Help and contact one of our HOPP providers. They're the legitimate providers of information and services. Thank you all for being here with us today. I'm very confident the programs we're launching now are going to provide additional help, but we will continue to work with every tool in our toolbox, and if there are not enough tools, we'll invent new tools. That is my commitment to you as your Attorney General, and with that, Amy will take questions if you have any.
Thanks for your question. They were really strong, and they stayed in their house, and they never left. And so they have stayed put, and they've kept fighting, and we are in ongoing litigation.
Anything else?
Maybe just a suggestion, can you have this information so that it can be distributed to the various members throughout, to the various congregational churches and organizations?
Yeah. Yes, that's the new program that we're announcing today, and the commitment of $350,000 is going to go to exactly that sort of outreach to make sure everyone possible has the information. Thank you.
Wait, can I just say?
And
I just want to say that we should here at Cornerstone be the model. So I'm asking that we put that information into the bulletin for Sundays, and we should, like I said, we should absolutely be the model, and we should make sure that every church in this district and throughout the city is able to put the literature into their bulletins. I know we have to have ours in by Tuesday or Wednesday, so.
great idea. That's an excellent question. Do not wait until you are in trouble. If you think that you are on the edge of not being able to afford a mortgage payment or rent for that matter, I mean, you have to reach out to the legitimate organizations that are designed to help. We created AG Scam Help, which will tell you if an organization is legitimate or not. They're either registered with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, they're registered with a state agency, they're one of our HOPP providers, those are legitimate agencies. But you don't have to wait until the trouble comes to seek help. Better to call in advance. Part of the inspiration for setting this up was this remarkable experience I had where I was in my car and I heard on the radio an ad saying, the Attorney General has settled cases with the banks and your mortgage may have already been paid off. I said, wait a minute, that's me. And they said, call this law firm and get help. So I did. I called that law firm and they are no longer doing business. But AG Scam Help was set up exactly for that reason. Do not wait until the trouble comes. You're better off reaching out. And again, this is where pride and embarrassment become our enemies. Encourage your friends and neighbors. If they're telling you they're worried, have them reach out for help. We've actually used some pretty sophisticated data analytics to target demographically and by income to identify specific communities in trouble. And there are neighborhoods in Brooklyn, in Southeast Queens, there are a couple of neighborhoods on Long Island and in the Hudson Valley, and because of privacy concerns, we can't share the individual homeowners, but we've really invested some resources in big data to try and target this as carefully as we can, and we're providing the parameters of that information in the specific neighborhoods that are at risk to the HOPP providers and the other community groups that are going to be engaging in this outreach. But certainly, Central Brooklyn is right up there at the top of the list, and as are some neighborhoods in Eastern Queens. And again, the housing market crashed in 2008, and we've been on a roller coaster ride ever since. But I'm pleased with the fact that we've been able to recover these funds. At some point, though, the state of New York is going to have to take over these programs because we shouldn't be dependent on having an attorney general getting giant settlements from banks to fund programs that should be available freely. But for the moment, we're still negotiating with another bank right now. So we are hard at work securing the funds, and we have got great partners to make sure they're used properly and used effectively. Thank you very much. Thank you all.